Hey guys, this is Christina. It's Vox and Guest, and look who's sitting here with me. He's not in the audience alone anymore. He's here on screen. It is Chris from Atonal Ascent. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Christina.
Well, good. I'm glad you're doing great. Look at this beautiful backdrop he's got, everyone. Do you see this? Do you see? Chris is not, sitting in a darkened room and hiding. He's here. He's got light and a guitar and a plant. I assume that's a plant. Otherwise, you have a
Oh no, yeah,
you have a weird pet behind you. So, um, okay. So I know that you are in the chat right now. Hopefully your life has allowed you to be, but and if not, you usually are watching. So you have a sense of the deep and serious note on which I like to begin every episode.
yeah.
So this is no different. You have not escaped my philosophical clutches, and I have thought about this one long and hard, and I need you to weigh in. Are you ready?
Maybe. Go ahead.
Okay, I think that's as prepared as you can possibly be for something at this level of magnitude. So okay, Chris, tell me, how many holes does a straw have? Is it one contiguous hole, or is it one at each end? I told you this was going to be hard hitting. Look at his face, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a very. I never thought about this before.
I'm here to blow your mind. That's
You
it.
did it right out of the gate. I'm going to say two, an
Two.
entrance and an exit
Okay.
with distance in the middle.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
I'm going to say.
Okay. It's interesting. I wonder if whether it is a bendy straw or not has an impact on the answer, because with a bendy straw, you know what I mean, like the flexible, there's a clear top. Okay, right? Because unless you're doing something that people might be confused by, you're generally drinking out of the part that's closest to the bend, right? But with a non-bendy straw, I think it gets a little fuzzier for me. But all right, you're so tell me why you think there is an exit and an entrance. This could go very badly in the chat very quickly. We're talking about two holes and an entrance and an exit. I just know that Rob and several others in the chat are already just cracking their knuckles and typing away. So tell me why you came to that answer. I need to understand the thinking behind this.
So I'm picturing it in my mind. I don't have a straw in front of me, but I'm picturing it in my mind. And when you have the straw in your fingers and you look at it, and you look at the top, there is a hole there.
Right.
When you turn it over and look at the bottom, there's a hole there. It's not the same hole, even though both holes are connected by the same material all the way through.
You are talking out of your ass right now, and it.
I'm saying that there's a definite entrance and a definite exit, so that's two.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And even if it was a bendy straw, and yes, unless you are a strange bird and put the bendy part into the beverage,
I gotta try that at some point now, just because I mentioned it. Just put the bendy part in the liquid. Okay, you are not equivocating at all. You have a strong, passionate stance. You've come up on the fly with a seemingly reasonable rationale for it. I'm impressed, Chris. This was one of our harder questions, and you've handled it with aplomb and grace. And I applaud you for that. I don't know what the comment section is going to make of this, but I definitely applaud you for coming in on this one with me. Okay, so nothing we will be going over will be quite that heady, I'm sure. But talk to me a little bit about you, because you and I have been chatting online for months now, and you've been such a supporter of the show and the band and all the bands in the community. And we're going to end up talking about Band Together and everything later, obviously. But talk to me about you and how you got into music in the first place, because I think you've been playing guitar for almost 40 years now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So my childhood was always full of music. My household, the house that I grew up in was always full of music. My mother's father and her brother were both violinists in the
That's
Philadelphia.
right.
Yeah, they were violinists in the Philadelphia classical music scene.
Yeah.
My uncle more so in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and my grandfather was, probably back in the 30s, all the way up to the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
My father married the daughter of a musician.
Okay.
He was in music himself. He plays the trombone. He was a session player at Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia.
Really?
In the 70s. Yeah. So Sigma Sound Studios was like the, I want to say, home base for the sound of Philadelphia. So Gamble and Huff.
Yeah. I mean, I knew the name, so, that's wow. Okay. So he would just sit in on session. Did he sit in with anybody that we would know?
He was on every Sal Soul Orchestra album, which is a little lesser known.
Okay.
Mother, Father, Sister, Brother is something that may ring a bell.
Okay.
But he was on every Spinners album and every OJ's album.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that part. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So you not only grew up in a musical family, you grew up in a professional musical family. Okay. Talk to me. Tell me more. This is exciting.
So he toured with Mother, Father, Sister, Brother.
Okay.
It didn't really go over well.
Oh.
And it didn't last very long. I guess I'm not sure exactly why.
Okay.
But after that kind of dried up, he got a gig touring with Burt Bacharach.
You're kidding.
No,
what?
no
oh
joke.
My God. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then
that's a name everybody know. I mean, maybe not of a certain generation, but I remember my grandparents playing Burt Bacharach. Like you heard it. You couldn't get into an elevator or go somewhere and not come. Wow. And I mean, that's wow. So how long was he on tour with Bacharach?
Probably only a year. I don't really know. I was like 3
really
at the
little.
time.
Yeah.
1976, something like that. But after the tour with Burt Bacharach, he started, he was in the orchestra for the Pennsylvania Ballet and the Philadelphia Opera Company. He just recently retired from the opera company.
Oh, that's amazing. Is he still playing?
He is, but it's like every once in a while with like a cover band that does like Motown stuff and Chicago covers.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chicago. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Anything with big horn section. That's amazing. I mean, we've had people who've had relatives who were, like Chris from Isiga Venin and AOD and, dead deceased and like literally every other band that's in existence. His uncle and I think his dad, had worked with, bigger band too. But like Bacharach is like, that's just so, I mean, so on like, what, is there a recording that we could go to that we could hear him on somewhere?
I'm pretty sure.
Probably, right? Anything the OJs did, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll be around.
Guys, if you hear the OJs and you hear a trombone, that's Chris's dad.
Yeah, that's Ed Cascarella. He's a legend in my mind anyway.
I'm starting to get there with you, Chris. That's very cool. So, I mean, since you were little while he was touring, you probably didn't pick up on too much of it, but did he sit you down and start, teaching you any kind of music? Was it something that you just sort of picked up because there were guitars lying around the house, or, how did you come to it yourself? Because, it's, again, you've been playing since you were, I gather, like a young teen, pre-teen. So. Yep. Okay.
So I'll start, like, one of my first memories of anything musically, of me doing something that's creating a sound. There was always a turntable in my house.
Okay.
Back in the day. We had a pretty big collection of albums most of which was my dad and my mom's taste in music. But we got some old Kiss albums from a neighbor.
Okay.
So I would, you know, we had these big giant 70s headphones with the coil wire, and I would put Destroyer on the turntable with the headphones. And I don't know where I got drumsticks from. Maybe they weren't even drumsticks. Maybe they were like wooden spoons or something.
I think that seems likely.
I would beat the piss out of the couch.
Your dad just comes in while you're playing Kiss.
I don't even remember him being there at the time, but that's one of my earliest memories.
Okay, so Kiss made its way, because I'm imagining that your parents' taste in music was not Kiss. So so this was allowed in the house, and do you have a sense of how old you were at this point?
Probably around the time that he toured with Backrack, so 3 or 4.
Okay, so it was really baby Chris. Okay, and but drums, but you obviously did not end up drumming, so something must have evolved from there.
Yeah, so when I was 12 and my brother was 15, my older brother John, my parents took us to a music store and bought my brother a guitar and me a student bass. And we had a handful of lessons. I think my brother stuck with the lessons longer than I did.
Okay.
But we had this idea that we were going to be a band or something.
Yeah.
But
about bass and guitar and a trombone. What else do you need?
Yeah. About 3 years later, my brother went off to college.
Right.
And did not take his guitar with him.
Aha.
At that point, I had already kind of lost interest in the bass.
Okay.
And I picked up his guitar and started messing around with that.
Now, was the bass something that you had asked for, or it was like, well, your brother's getting a guitar and we need the rhythm section, so you get a bass? Or how did you end up with what you each got?
I think that's what it was. I think you're exactly right. My brother was getting a guitar. And it was like, well, hey, Chris, check this thing out. This thing's
plus, you were younger. You deserved like at least one fewer string, like you could work up to. Okay, so he left behind the guitar and opportunity struck.
Yes.
Now, had you had your eye on it all those years, or was it just kind of like, I'm not playing? Okay.
And at this point, I was already starting to get into like 80s thrash metal. So, the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax, and all of the other stuff all the peripherals, Testament, all the other stuff.
Okay.
Rockman, Jetsam, all that stuff. So I started, I had this big giant boom box with 2 dual cassette, whatever. And
state of the art at the time. That was top of the line. You couldn't get fancy
on it. So I would try to play, especially some of the Metallica songs. I would try to play some of those riffs. And
so you were not starting simple.
No, not really. I mean, Smoke on the Water. Everybody starts with Smoke on the Water.
I think you legally have to. It's like that and Stairway. You have to pay your dues, and so does everyone else listening to you. But yeah, Smoke on the Water, one fingered. Okay.
I have to say, in 37 years of playing or whatever it is, I never learned Stairway to Heaven.
Look at you. Is that like is that just a rebellious refusal, or it's just not a song that you ever got interested in, or how did that happen?
I'm going to go with rebellious refusal because it makes me sound cool, but most likely it was like I was intimidated and didn't think I could do it, and by the time I did have the skill level to do it, I had no interest.
Now, guys, he was too cool for it. He was just he could play it, just without ever having practiced it. He just chose not to. That's what we're gonna go with, Chris. Follow me on that one quickly. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you picked it up. You were starting on Metallica. You were challenging yourself from the beginning. And did you feel good about it right away? Did you ask for lessons again, trying on guitar instead of bass, or are you completely self-taught?
I am 99.8% self-taught.
Okay.
I had a handful of bass lessons when I first got that bass.
Right.
After I picked up my brother's guitar and started playing that, I eventually bought my own guitar with my own money after I had a job, and a bigger, nicer amp that had, distortion and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I did get guitar lessons after I got that new rig. But again, it was like maybe 3 months worth of once a week. And to be honest, I didn't like being told what to play
Yeah.
and how to play it.
Yeah. I think that's a really, I don't think I've spoken to a musician yet on this show who was like, I took lessons for years. It was always like, yeah, I had one lesson. Like Louis Tivy was like, I had one lesson. It was so bad. I asked for my money back. Like, it was terrible. Nobody sticks with it. And I think that's part of it, because you don't pick up a guitar or a bass or anything, drums, and you don't want to play Twinkle Twinkle or scales. You want to play Metallica, you want to play Pantera, you want to play the Beatles or the Stones, and that's not where they start you. So I don't think you're alone in that it's like, I tried a little bit, but I wanted to do it my way. So you eschewed the formal instruction, and did you keep learning just by playing along to things that you liked?
Yes, so it was
Okay.
pretty much all by ear. There was,
Okay.
the closest thing we had to any kind of instructional stuff back then, outside of lessons, was like Starlicks. So if you have ever heard of Starlicks,
No.
Starlicks was a cassette tape that
Okay.
came with a book.
Okay.
On the cassette tape was a guy talking you through like an Eddie Van Halen solo riff.
Okay.
And then there was a book with like notations or tablature showing you where to put your finger on the fretboard.
So it was like analog YouTube instructional videos.
So,
okay.
And
Okay.
I didn't really do the Starlicks thing. It was like listening to cassettes and then eventually CDs or the radio.
Yeah.
And just trying to find the notes and the chords that they're playing.
Okay.
And piece everything together myself. And if I liked the song enough, I would actually work at it and try to perfect it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it was too hard or whatever, I would just forget it.
Move on. Yeah. Well, that's one of the freedoms of being self-taught, right? Is that you can just decide to work on something or not. But look, as somebody with an educational background, I actually completely endorse that whole idea, because I think the main thing that gets people to learn anything is motivation, and if you're like, I love this song, I want to know how to play it, you're going to be much more likely to figure out what you need to in order to make that happen than if you're just following along in a book and it doesn't look anything like why you decided to try learning it in the first place. So I could totally understand that. But it's obviously, I talk to a lot of musicians just in general who are self-taught, but I think it's interesting with you, because one of your preoccupations musically seems to be playing around with alternative tunings. And generally, that's something that you might expect from somebody who had more background in music theory or whatever. And so your ear is clearly, strong enough that you were able to not only teach yourself, but then start experimenting and exploring, which we'll get to. But before we do that, because everyone in the comments right now is going, song, I might as well give the people what they want. And so you can hear a little bit of Chris, who, we haven't mentioned it outright, but while you do work on ideas for originals, you are mainly a covers artist, which again, I'm always happy to have one of my people on the show. And so we're going to play one of your covers from a gig that you just did about 3 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about your cover of Willie here?
Yeah. So my good friend's wife, Loretta Allen Montgomery, asked me to back her up a couple months ago on a whim, just because the people that she had set backed out. Mm-hmm. And I learned a couple songs. I went, I backed her up, and she loved it so much that she wanted me to accompany her as, you know, her and friends at the Burlington County Farm Fair, which is a yearly thing that is done here in Burlington County, New Jersey. And I, you know, was very excited to do that because we have my family, my immediate family, me, my wife, and my kids, we were always going to this fair every year, ever since my oldest daughter was in the womb. And
well, you have a great story about this, right? And you might as well tell it because it's really cute. It's really cute.
Yeah. So my oldest is 26. My wife was probably 9 months and a day pregnant, and we were trying to help things along. And her doctor at the time told her that going for a walk would help that process along. Mm-hmm. So we did. We went to the Burlington County Farm Fair and we walked around to try and induce labor. And I don't think it happened that night. It may have. I don't know. I'll have to ask her. Or maybe I can bring her in.
She probably remembers, yeah.
I'm sure she remembers. But a
little more vivid for her, but yeah.
Right. So her first time at the farm fair, she wasn't even born yet. And then at this gig that you're about to show a clip from, she was there in the audience with her husband and baby Margot in the womb. So it was kind of like a full circle type thing where, you know, as a proud papa and now going to be a proud grandpapa, having things come full circle like that's pretty cool.
So think about that, guys. How sweet is that story? He went to this fair 26 years ago with his wife and, you know, walked around until, you know, his firstborn was ready to come out. And then he performs at this fair 26 years later with the baby that was induced by the fair, who is about to have her first baby of her own. How great is that? I love that. That's a thing. Music, it's just so cool that way. You know, I love those little synchronicities. So, okay. So this here is Chris from Atonal Ascent doing Willie Nelson's Always on My Mind.
I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. I guess I never told you I'm so happy that you're mine. If I made you feel second best, I'm so sorry I was blind. You were always on my mind. You were always stars. Give me one more chance to keep you satisfied. I'll keep you satisfied. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Thank you, guys.
So I was about to say, are you a big Willie fan? And that's just going to light the chat up too. But talk to me about choosing that particular song, Willie Nelson. Are you a big fan of his? Does that song have special resonance for you? You just like playing it, or why'd you pick that one?
I'm not a huge Willie Nelson fan.
Okay.
I did go through like a country music phase. I want to say like 15 to 20 years ago.
Okay.
I'm not really into country that much anymore, but I am into like the roots music movement that has come around lately. I don't know
more
if
like
you've
an Americana or kind of.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Larkin Poe.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Larkin Poe, Tyler Childers, Coulter Wall, Benjamin Todd, like all like sort of harkening back to like Delta blues type stuff with
right.
Yeah. So, but Willie Nelson, that song, I always love that song. It's something about the melody, the chord progression, the way he sings it.
Yeah.
And I just started kind of singing along to it one day and found that it was within my range and I could actually do it. And it didn't sound bad. I looked up the chords. They weren't that hard. And and now it's going to probably be one of my mainstays if I continue to do this.
Oh, I think you will. But no, that song also had a ton of crossover appeal. I mean, like when that one came, I was very little, but I even remember, hearing that at some point, again, at my grandparents' house or something, who were decidedly not country fans at all. You don't get a lot of Bronx Italians listening to country, but I think it's funny that you had a country phase, because usually it's like a goth phase or an emo phase. You're like, leave me alone, mom and dad, this is my art. But like, did you just like wear a cowboy hat and spurs and just, wiggle a lasso at people for a while? Or you were into country music for a while and then just kind of stopped?
It was, I definitely did not wear a 10-gallon hat.
In my head, that's how it happened now. So it doesn't even really matter what you say. That's headcanon for me. That is exactly, there's a picture of you somewhere dressed up like, like the male Dolly Parton, and you got the wig and the hat and everything. And that's it. And you can't change my mind. But so, okay. So just to kind of pull it back to what we were talking about before song, you taught yourself to play, and are still teaching yourself to play, as all guitarists, I think, perpetually are, as all musicians perpetually are. So at what point did you decide that you were also going to sing? Because I know that you are, no pun intended, but fairly vocal on social media about the fact that that isn't something that you feel as comfortable with, that you haven't been doing as long, and that you're not particularly thrilled about having to do at the same time as playing the guitar, which, again, I know a lot of people take, singing guitarists as a given, but I still am always impressed when people can do more than one musical instrument at a time, singing and playing anything. So did you always like to sing too? Do you have any singers in the family, or were they all instrumentalists? How'd you decide to start opening your mouth too?
Well, my mom did sing,
Okay.
and she played the piano as well, but just like for her own enjoyment. And she would, sit in front of that same record player and play Nino Vanelli or whatever it was and sing along to his songs.
Okay.
So I always heard her voice. And I do like to sing like along with the radio when I'm commuting to work or whatever.
Sure.
I always had a problem. I've tried to sing and play over the years, but I've always had a problem just cognitively, like with the multitasking and being able to hit the right notes and the right chords in a way that is true to the song,
right,
while singing the words and hitting the notes and making it sound somewhat like what it's supposed to sound like, but also putting my own, not having some kind of fake Southern accent, so I sound like Willie Nelson. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. Yeah,
especially when the vocal pattern doesn't follow.
Yes.
The chord progression or the single note accompaniments or whatever it is that I'm trying to play while I'm singing that line. I've been trying to work on Heart-Shaped Box by Nirvana.
Right.
I want to do a playthrough with that, and I want to sing it while I play it on the guitar, on the acoustic guitar. And there's this one part, I like the whole song I'm pretty good on.
Okay.
But there's this one part where he does something vocally that I don't know if there's like a split second hesitation or if something is different, that every time I do it, I screw up
in that one spot. I think you just skip that spot. Do your own arrangement, and the only difference is that you don't play that one spot. That's it, and then you've made it your own. I'm curious what part of the song it is now. It's been so long since I've heard that one that I can't call it to mind right away. But yeah, because you picked that one up. That was voted right for you as a song that your followers wanted to hear you cover, right? Because didn't Bobby your wife had this idea? Was it the 1,000 follower mark that you were gonna?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was a really cool idea. So for those who didn't see it on Chris's page, well, I'll let you tell it. So you hit the 1,000, the coveted 1,000 follower mark, and
so my wife and I were driving somewhere. I don't even remember where we were, but she said, this is really cool. I'm happy for you, babe, whatever. And she was like, you should do something special to commemorate, to celebrate the milestone. And she's like, why don't you get a list of 5 songs that maybe you're not used to doing or that you don't normally do, that might challenge you to learn, and present that to your friends or people that follow you, and ask them what they would like to hear you do in your next reel. So originally it was just going to be a reel, but I decided that I was going to take it a step further and do something even a little more special and do an actual full song playthrough, which now I'm regretting, because it would have been much easier.
You're like, damn it. You could just delete those posts on your timeline if you really wanted.
I'm not going to do that.
Gaslight everybody, be like, what? There was no vote. I was always just going to play this one reel, and that was it. It was.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, what? And of course, we'll have to scrub this whole episode too. But in the in the social media whitewashing there. But so okay, but I mean, it did end up being a challenge, right? So I mean, for something like that, because, you said a little bit ago that, playing through on things that you liked, you would try on a song if you wanted to see if you could play it. And if it was too hard, you often moved on. So at some point, obviously, you must have changed that mindset, simply because I assume you don't only play things still that are super easy for you to play, because some of the stuff that you play is not super easy. And again, I know that you are not hugely fond of playing and singing together yet.
Right.
But it's again, like, I think people do take that for granted, but it really is because, I know that there are people who undervalue singing, and don't think of it as a musical instrument and all that crap. And as a singer, I've gotten some version of that, my whole life, and, showing up in auditions and stuff and being like, oh, well, it's the singers here, but, the real instrumentalists or whatever, all the crap that musicians can do to each other. But to sing well, you have to sing mindfully, unless one is supremely gifted, like a Chris Cornell or a Whitney Houston, or, whether you like her or not, Celine Dion or Adele,
Right.
or, one of these really just Jeff Buckley, tremendous vocalists. You do have to think it through. You have to be mindful of your pitch. You have to be paying attention. And then, as you said, to do that at the same time as you're also doing that, but with a second instrument, it isn't
Exactly.
easy. So, it's funny. You always seem vaguely sheepish when you mention that on your social media, like, oh, I'm not really used to it. And I always want to be like, don't do that, Chris. Like, it's harder than people think. It's not like it's an easy thing that everybody can do. It's just that the people who can do it, it's very impressive that they can, but it's not so simple, and I'm just glad that you're doing it, because then we get to hear you singing too, because I know, given the choice, you always seem to default to playing the guitar over singing. So,
Yes.
I mean, I'm assuming, just based on your history, you didn't bother trying to take any singing lessons or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Okay. So how do you work on singing then? Is it just, you're just constantly singing along to whatever you're hearing on the radio, or, are you doing, what was it? The star licks or whatever, but for but for vocals or whatever, like, how, is that something you're actively, as you're thinking about singing more, are you working on your vocals more than you did before, or are you just kind of plugging away?
I'm just kind of winging it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really just, like I do when you see some of my reels, sit on the back patio, or sit on the couch and just start playing and start singing and figure out whether or not it's within my range, and then I can tune up or down or capo in order to compensate for that.
Right.
But I'm really not working on it. And I know that if I want to continue to do what I've done these past few months,
with the gigs and everything,
my friend, I'm going to have to actually work on it and make sure that I'm trying to provide the best show that I can to honor her. I don't want to, she seems to love whatever I do, no matter what. Even when there's a song within that county fair video, you can see where I actually forget the words, and I kind of just hum along to it.
We've all done it. We've all done it at live gigs. That is a rite of passage for a gigging musician. It happens. So
good. I don't feel so bad then.
Oh, no. Try being a live in real time internet band where everything that you do is archived forever, and then talk to Frank and me about making sure we have all the lyrics. We do not. We absolutely do not. So that is not just you. You do not have to feel bad about that. And I know people watching right now are like, I've done it. So yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. But I hear you. You want to, and I appreciate that, because it would be easy enough to get by with what you're already doing. But what you're saying is that if you're going to continue playing live gigs, and they don't all have to be with Loretta, you could go do open mics, or you find something at a coffee house, or just whatever, anywhere, that you want it to be at a certain level, and I think what's interesting is that because you have been playing guitar for almost 4 decades, when you're newer to singing, and this is not in any way to indicate that I don't like your voice, because I do, but this is more of a general statement that I'm making, that if you feel like your skill set on one instrument is way farther along than the other one, I think either the more adept skill pulls the other one toward it, or you kind of end up dragging both of them back. And I think, for me at least, that's you know, when you're playing guitar, that's all you're doing, right? And you're so used to it and whatever. And it's not really primary process where you have to consciously think about what you're doing. But when you're singing, if you're less familiar with it, you do have to be mindful. And then when you're singing and playing guitar, you've got like 3 things going on in your head. So I mean, I hope you're going to keep playing out. Is that the plan? Because you keep talking about, well, if I continue with this and if I decide to. And so you're throwing some uncertainty onto this for me, Chris, which I don't appreciate, because I want you to keep doing it. But what would be the reason not to? What would be the reason just to, to stop doing the live gigs?
Just time and I think we spoke about family life earlier.
Yeah.
Even though with my daughter, she's about to have her first child in a month or so. We were just recently informed that our youngest son proposed to his girlfriend.
Oh my! Wow, you have a lot of stuff going on in your family right now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Well, she said yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, congratulations. Otherwise, this would have been a very different, darker story. So, okay, so you're like, we're working him through that because she said no. But yeah, okay, so she said yes. So you have a grandbaby on the way, your first, and you have a wedding that is now going to be planned. Okay.
And from what I'm made to understand, they're probably not going to wait that long. So we're going to have to start, making sure we have some money piled up. We're going to have to start planning, and it's so life can get busy, and I don't want to commit myself to doing music if it's going to take away from what they need from me as their father, or
pater familias. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if it's going to take away from me enjoying these moments because I'm focused on other things.
Right. No, look, I mean, the work-life balance, and music is a big topic on this show. And I think we all struggle with it. I mean, it's and the priority always has to be life. Right. I mean, like that's, but I get the sense, though, I don't know, maybe you will just be, maybe they'll have you play at the wedding, and then you'll have to learn how to do it, and then you'll be satisfying both criteria at the same time. I'm trying to brainstorm with you here, Chris, so that you can you can keep going with it. But okay, so look, I mean, let's assume that all the stars will align, and you're going to keep playing out, whether it's occasionally or whatever. And so you, though, you have a couple of things going on where you are, in going through your social media to prep for the show. I saw more than a couple of clips of you jamming with other musicians. So I know that Richie is your best buddy on the drums, and you also have been doing some work with Eric. Is it Eric X Music, maybe?
Yep.
So is Eric also a guitarist, or is he only producer? He's a guitarist too, right?
Yes, Eric is a guitar player. He actually is one of my best friends. We play together in our church band.
Right.
I play bass. He plays the guitar. He is a guitar builder as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug revelatorguitars.com.
Do it, because it's beautiful. That's not the guitar. You have your acoustic next to you, but you have a gorgeous guitar that he built you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys got to go on his Facebook and see it. It's really beautiful. It really is. Like, I don't even play guitar, and I was like, "Ooh, pretty! I want that." So go ahead, plug him better than we just did. Go ahead.
Eric Stein, also known as Eric X Music, and RevelatorGuitars.com. Instagram, Facebook, you can probably find him on all those.
And even if you just go to Atonal Ascent's Facebook page, he's linked on there too. That's how I know about him. So okay, so you and Eric, and sometimes Richie, get together and you jam. And I laughed with you, not at you, because I believe it was Monkey Wrench that you were working on, right? And so you were on bass, if I'm not mistaken, working on that, right? And so there are a couple actually of clips where Chris is like, so yeah, really having a good time here, really getting into it, miss my cue every damn time. Like, you show that. And I love that, because it's, it's musicians who feel like they can only show the best finished product of a thing. Okay, but we all know that that's not where it starts. And as somebody who, we're working on a new set now for voxandstix, and those early rehearsals, even if everybody's on point, there's stuff where you go back later, a month later, and you listen, and you're like, "Ooh, Lordy, that was that was some crunchy business there." And like, so I love that you put that out there. It was a good, funny, relatable moment, as the kids say. But so talk to me about those jams, because I love the way they sound. First of all, Richie is a beast on the drums. I think you shared a post of his at some point. I don't remember where in your timeline it was, where he had been away from drumming for a while. And I forget, it was some incredibly intense song you will probably remember that he was sort of wetting his feet back with. And I was just like, that's what the guy sounds like when he hasn't been playing for a while. Holy shit. So talk about this bromance here with the three of you and Richie and Eric and all of that. Talk to me, because I love that, what it sounds like, and I want more. So I want to know what you're doing and what that's all about.
So Richie and Eric have only met like a couple of times, actually. Okay. So what Eric and I do together is separate from what Richie and I do together. Oh,
okay. So is Eric not the one on guitar in those clips?
No, that's Richie and that's our friend Drew.
Oh, okay, Drew. I did not mean to sideline you there. I didn't even know you existed. But yeah, because I know the things that I've seen where you've labeled it as Eric, you're usually at a desk. You're mixing stuff. So, okay. So then talk me through each of those, whichever you want to take first, whether it's Eric or you and Richie and Drew.
Yeah. So Richie and I are actually co-workers. We've been working together probably for the last 10 years. We're both heavy equipment operators for a natural gas construction company.
Wow. Okay.
And we just, I don't know, he's like a big Nirvana fan. My favorite band maybe is Soundgarden. So we have this, 90s grunge thing that we can share together. Mm-hmm. And he told me he played drums. I went over his house one day. It was me, him, and a buddy of his, Tim. And we just started playing some stuff, and I realized what an amazing drummer Richie was.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you're gonna have to keep me coming back. And he he thinks I'm like the greatest thing since sliced bread, or he's just that much of a nice guy that he tells me that. But because I'm very self-critical of my skills and my playing, and I'm vocal.
Well, welcome to being a musician. Yeah, right. we all are. We all are. So no, but but I hope you take that compliment though, because really, guys, he doesn't have a music page from what I can tell. It's just his profile. But if you go through Chris's Facebook not too far, you're going to see Richie on there drumming. He's really, really good. Like really good. So if he thinks that what you're doing is good, listen to him.
Okay.
You know? Okay.
Okay.
Like, okay. All right. There. I've solved your confidence issues just with that one sentence. I'm just bing. That's how yeah. So tell me more. So you guys, you had a jam. You realized that you had each other, and so how frequently are you able to get together?
It's kind of up and down. There was a point in time where myself, Richie, and my sister Adrian.
I was going to ask you about her too. Yep.
Yep. So we were a cover band together, and we would have different bass players. It was me on guitar, Richie on drums, my sister singing and playing acoustic guitar sometimes.
Right. She's also very talented.
Yes.
Very talented. And it was funny, I get very invested in these things that I know nothing about up until I've just started researching. And when I saw the post that Adrian was moving away, and I was like, no, because I'd seen the videos and there's a cute one there. You guys had done an open mic in a place that seemed like you went to a couple of times at least.
Yes.
And, she's kind of talking everybody through the chords of the song, and she's like, the bridge is the only tricky part, and she's getting, and then she starts singing. You guys all have that, you were very much in the pocket with each other. So when I saw that wasn't going to continue, because obviously I didn't see her anywhere on Atonal Ascent, so I was like, all right, something must have happened, but I was kind of bummed that didn't pan out. But yeah, so I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but you're connecting dots for me and my brain lights up. So you and Richie and Adrian would do, and was that under the Atonal Ascent name?
No, at that
because I didn't see a name.
At that point, we were called Bedlam.
Bedlam.
With like an insane asylum escapee backstory that we kind of made up.
Okay.
Like that we were, escapees from this insane asylum, and this is what happens when a drummer that has ADHD but is not diagnosed or medicated, and then a guitar player, like we had this whole thing. But yeah, so
I'm sorry. No, I'm gonna have to call an audible there. You're gonna have to go into a little bit more, because you cannot throw that down for this audience and then just be like, yeah, we were called Bedlam and we had this backstory about being in an asylum. How did that happen? Who wrote that? And did you guys actually inhabit personae on stage? I didn't see any of that in the clips that I saw, but so where did this themed insane asylum thing come from? Because it's very specific, especially for a mostly what I saw kind of acoustic, musician kind of thing. It was like, you're like, it was like, it's Bedlam, we're absolutely mad, and then it's an interesting juxtaposition. So what was just quickly, what was the thought behind that?
I think I came up with the name, and I don't know how, I don't know where, but Richie is really good at coming up with outlandish scenarios and stories, and I'm trying not to go off the rails here, but even though he's a drummer, publicly, he creates movies, he's a pianist, he writes music on the piano. Oh, wow. He can play the guitar, he can play the bass. He is one of the most talented individuals I know. Yeah. So, but
you gotta bring him into band together.
I'm trying.
You gotta love him up. Yeah, absolutely.
He is on Instagram as "If it's too loud, you're too old."
Okay.
So if you go on Instagram and search,
you can find Richie there. Okay.
There should be about 10 or 11 videos of him playing the drums, and the one that you mentioned earlier was Jesus Christ posed by Soundgarden.
That's it. That's exactly what.
Insane.
I was gonna say, which people who know the song know now what we're talking about. That this was his, getting back into it song, and not low hanging fruit. But okay, so you had a name. Richie's, creative mind took over, and then I guess Adrian just was along for the ride. So okay, so you three had played together. You had that cover band, and that was for a couple years, right?
Yeah. So on and off, it came in waves because again, life gets in the way. But on and off for about 3 years before COVID. This is pre-COVID.
Right.
When COVID hit, we kind of didn't do anything.
Right, right.
And then Adrian she was in a place in her life where she needed to make a pretty big change. She had a relationship that ended abruptly. That was, they were engaged and there was some promise, and then it ended abruptly. And she needed to make a big change. And she lived with us for a while as a result of that. And she decided she was going to move to Colorado.
Oh, that's where from Jersey to Colorado. That is a very big change on a lot of levels. So okay, so good for you, Adrian. Fuck that dude or whatever. But okay. So she moved on, and then that obviously changed the landscape of what you were doing musically.
Yeah,
because
I didn't do much after that, except for just sitting on my couch and messing around. And every once in a while, Richie and I would get together and play some Smashing Pumpkins or whatever. I just one day kind of decided I was going to start documenting my stuff. I created an additional Instagram page just for that. And then I rebranded the Facebook page that was originally created for Bedlam.
Gotcha.
And I rebranded it Atonal Ascent. And and I've just been trying to be, like you were mentioning before about the mistakes and stuff. I'm just trying to be organic. I'm trying to be authentic and relatable.
The idea of trying to be authentic just made me smile because but yeah, I think it is one of the things that first drew me to you and your page, because as you can imagine, I talk to, hear from, interact with a lot of musicians every day. And, while I pay attention to everybody and I listen to everybody and everything, obviously I've gotten closer with certain people than others. And one of the things with you is that I love when I get a real sense of who the musician is right away from their page. And it doesn't look like this crafted, choreographed, curated image of a person, and one of the most recent things that you put out was a video with your wife when Sinead O'Connor died, and what was the last day of our acquaintance? Right? That was the song? Great song, and whatever you think of Sinead O'Connor, just a really tremendous musician, and I mean, nothing compares to you. I know Prince wrote it, but that song was 1991, 1990. There was like nothing bigger than that on the radio. And you did this video together where you actually got Bobby to sing with you on camera, which then of course I immediately latched onto and was like, make her do it more. She's good. And what I loved was that you had a moment in there where you were like, okay, wait. I keep forgetting I'm supposed to do something that stands out, so I know where in the video to start. And you kind of looked up at the scene. And I loved you for that, because it's, social media requires that kind of stuff. It requires the planning. It requires, strategizing and whatever. And some of us don't actually manage to do that, but it does require it if you're going to be successful at it. And I love that you laid that out there. You could have cut that out. You didn't need to put it on there.
The original plan was to cut that out.
Sure, you could tell based on what you recorded. Yeah. So then what made you decide to leave it in?
The look on her face when I started to explain to her,
it was very cute,
about the recognizable motion so that I would know where to edit to. She kind of sighs and opens her eyes real wide. Now, mind you, this was probably like the 15th take.
Okay.
So we were already, so at this point, she's probably already fed up with me, but she's still having fun, because when I do the whole swoop my head thing, he looks at me and laughs. And, like, I still love this man, even though he's insane.
And maybe because he is. Maybe. Probably a little bit of both. You have to have some insanity to get through a long marriage. You just do. It can be the best thing. But so Bobby, let's sidestep for a second here. Because you said something very sweet when we were talking ahead of, tonight. And you said, I may try and drag her on camera because I would not be who I am and where I am without her. So, where were you musically when you met her? And did that play any part in you guys getting together? Were you the guy on the lawn with the acoustic guitar, just, gazing at her like, Julio Iglesias or whatever? Like, wait, what the fuck reference was that? What decade am I'm like, what? I could have said literally anyone who, I don't even know if he's still alive, but anyway, was that part of your courtship, or, how much of a musician were you when Bobby met you and all of that?
So we met senior year in high school.
Okay.
We were in a couple classes together. At that point, I really wasn't doing a whole lot.
Right.
Just messing around on my guitar a little bit.
You had just picked it up like a couple years before. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we started dating right after graduation. We were not technically high school sweethearts because we didn't date during high school, but
okay, I think we could squeak you in under the wire on that one. That you're allowed to call each other that. That's fine.
Yeah. So our first date was actually me taking her to a shopping mall so that she could pick out a graduation outfit to wear under her gown. So yeah. Aww. All right. So our first.
You hadn't graduated yet. There you go. That's it. Right. That's it. It's done. I've made the rules. Yeah. That's it. Your high school sweethearts. Okay. So you would just, so she's been with you for basically your entire musical career then.
Yep. Pretty much. I mean, we started dating, we were 18, 19 years old, something like that. So yeah, I started messing around on the bass probably mid 80s. So 1992, like 7 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said, I'm going to try and drag her out, and she'll probably kill you if you do that. But, when you say, I mean, obviously I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about your marriage and your personal life, but like, when you mentioned that to me, it really seemed of importance. So I didn't want to let that go by without honoring her and mentioning it. So, is that, has she been, I'm imagining, yes, like, but, a big encouragement to you in, playing, singing, gigging, I know, and I do know that we've alluded to it a little bit, but you do write down hundreds of ideas for potential originals, and even some of the reels that you have, you had been doing, you'd been playing a couple of Soundgarden songs, I think.
Yep.
And you came up with an alternate tuning, and then one of your videos goes through this cool chord progression and riff, which actually, it was funny. It reminded me a little bit of Every Rose Has Its Thorn, like a little bit, but you changed it enough that it wasn't the same thing. And because I think you had an alternate tuning, and then you actually like took it up another, semitone or a full tone or something. And so, you do have ideas for originals, but you don't seem to have shown them to the public or taken them too far. But so, is Bobby helping us out and encouraging you on trying to do more of that? Or like, what role does she play in your music?
Yeah, she is a huge encouragement to me. She supports me in everything I do. She's been to anytime that I've played out in open mic nights or gigs with my sister and Richie, or stuff with Loretta. She's always been there, and she's always cheering me on, and making the woo woo sexy guitar player sound, and she is like my therapist, my scheduling department, my
she's the CEO of your life.
Yes, she,
okay.
She reminded me today that I needed to trim my nose hairs before I started my interview with you, because
thank you, Bobby. You could have braided them and like gone for a whole Willie Nelson thing, but with the nose hair, we would have worked with you. But Bobby, kudos. on the nasal hair trimming. I appreciate that. The attention to detail that is the job of a spouse sometimes. But okay, so and this is obviously somebody, you know, who has seen your passion for what you do and seen it grow, I imagine, over time. So we did want to give Bobby a shout, and anyone who wants to hear her sing, she is on that Sinead cover, very timidly, but I do think we need to get her singing more. How cool would it be if you guys just became like an acoustic duo, went out singing together, or make her sing, and then you don't have to do it at the same time as playing the guitar, right? Have you ever talked about that? Like, you know, or is she just like, no way?
I've thought about it.
Okay.
And I'm sure she would entertain the idea, but like I mentioned to you in the comments of that video, she's very self-conscious.
Yeah.
You know, some stuff that, you know, some discouragement when she was a kid singing, and it kind of ruined it for her.
That made me angry because and I will only mention it because she put it on your page herself, and so it was public in comments that, you know, when she would sing when she was younger, she would get, you know, teased or made fun of. And people, if you're out there watching, just don't fucking do that. You know, like, don't be the reason that somebody stops doing something that they love. Just don't be an asshole. It's so easy not to be an asshole. Don't do that, because now you have somebody like Bobby who's got a good voice, who has a good ear, good pitch, and has you know, a husband that she could be playing out with, and she's insecure about it because some douchebag in like 5th grade said something stupid, who probably, you know, can't, you know, carry a tune in a bucket or whatever. But I'm mad at those people on Bobby's behalf. But let's work on her, Chris. You and I will do some musical intervention with her. But so okay, so we were jumping around a lot, but that's okay. So you do have originals that you may write at some point. Talk to me about why things get on your phone as ideas and then don't go past that. What's your glitch there? Because I know it's you holding yourself back, but what are you doing to yourself that those aren't coming to fruition yet? And I say yet because that's another talk that you and I are going to have about making sure that you do that. So what's going on there? Like, since you seem to want to write originals and you have ideas, talk to me about that a little bit.
One of the things that I think holds me back or gets in my way, or I let get in my way, is the fact that I really don't have any recording equipment. I have a phone, I have an iPad, we have maybe a laptop that's like 10 years old, you know.
Right.
So and that this is going to bring me back around to Eric, but and Richie as well, but they have recording equipment.
Right.
But getting together with them and being able to spend the time and put in the hours, I think it's one thing if I had a room.
If you were just home. You
know. So Eric and I we were getting together every Thursday night or every other Thursday night for a couple of months, and he's got guitars everywhere because obviously he's a guitar builder and he's got his setup. So we were there hanging out. He's playing me some stuff that he's got written that hopefully he'll release at some point. And he would ask for my opinion. I'd give it to him. And then we would have like just sort of a jam session afterwards. So I pick up, he's got like some kind of, I don't know, 59 Telecaster or something like that. So I pick that up and I start messing with it. And he gets up and goes into the kitchen to grab a beer. And I'm just, I don't know what I'm just playing.
Yeah.
And he comes out, he goes, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm just playing. He's like, "What song is that?" I said, I don't know. It's just, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we should record that. And I'm like, okay. So he puts a mic in front of his, silver face Fender or whatever the heck he's got. And I start playing this chord progression. There's a small piece of it when I'm actually laying a bass track onto it,
right,
on my Facebook page.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
And he has the file. and he sent it to me on Dropbox.
Okay.
But I don't know how to do anything with it myself, and I don't really have anything to do anything.
I'm gonna have to get you and Greg talking to each other too about how we can maybe help you with some of the tech piece there, because now it is there is a lot more that you can do without buying actual physical equipment than you could 10 years ago or whatever. But not to derail you, but I'm trying to remove the obstacles to your originals. But no, I hear you. It's the gear is important, because as you said, if you just had a room and you could just walk over somewhere, it would be easier to find time to record things or whatever. But even so then, am I understanding, have you written songs, like full songs? Because mostly you seem to refer to it as, these are things that could become songs one day if I wanted them to, or if I had the time. So, okay, right. You're not. So I'm gathering. So I get that I'm really calling you out here, my friend, but I get that the recording is a problem, but the writing, you only need you and the phone and the guitar so what's right. Real reason besides time? I will grant you time. I know 4 kids and a grandbaby on the way and a job and all this other stuff. I give you that. But are you holding yourself back? What's going on there? I don't know. I smell something funny here that's really keeping you from doing it, because you could.
I would like to think that I'm not holding myself back from it. I'd hate to say that I don't think what I can do will be good enough, because who is the judge of what's good enough, right? So I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really have a good answer.
Okay.
Other than the things that we just mentioned.
Okay. So if you don't have an excuse, then you have to do it.
I should. It's just going to take time.
Yeah. No, look, I hear you. And originals are, I mean, I've written originals for as long as I've been in music, and almost no one has heard them. And it's for similar reasons, where I'm kind of like, okay, you're used to being a cover artist mostly. It's easy to go and learn somebody else's stuff because it's already there, and it exists, and so you just have to learn it and practice it and perform it. And even though it's your voice, your guitar, your bass, your drums, your keys, your whatever, from a creative standpoint of actually having made a thing, you don't have any skin in the game, right? So it's easier. But I just, based on the little tiny bits that you've dropped on your social media, and I do want to start talking about it a little bit, and this is as good a time as any, but given your fascination with things like alternate tunings and the way that you like to play around and experiment with all of that, like you had a whole video where you were talking about how, I think, the A sharp chord or the note is supposed to, it's considered to have these properties of evoking euphoria in people, right? And so you did this whole thing about it. Right. You're clearly geeking out on that stuff, right? So where did that come from? Like, as somebody who's self-taught, a lot of people kind of stick with what, or you throw a K-Pal on or whatever, if you want to. But like, where did the fascination with alternate tunings come in? And because I get the sense that the things that you write, or the snippets of things that you are maybe going to write, some of it grows out of that. You'll sit there, like what happened with the Soundgarden songs. You came up with an alternate tuning, and it gave you a whole other idea for a riff and a chord progression. And so talk to me about that, because it's such a specific thing to be interested in, but I think it's interesting. So I have the feeling everyone else will too.
Yeah. So it will probably be Soundgarden that introduced me to alternate tunings.
Okay.
Because I don't think there was any, because before I got into Soundgarden and that type of stuff, I was, like I said before, I was listening to all thrash metal and death metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in that era, in the mid late 80s, those bands weren't using drop D tuning that I know of.
No, but like every grunge band ever.
Right. So Soundgarden, I think, was the first time I ever heard drop D tuning. even though everyone, I mean, Tony Iommi always down-tuned like a half a step or a whole step or a step and a half or whatever it is,
Right.
to make
Just
it
to get
easier
that
for
low
me.
end and the grumble and the
Yeah.
flexibility. Yeah.
But listening to that, I never realized that there was something.
Right.
When I started listening to Soundgarden and my interest in music and my interest in playing music and playing those songs started to grow, I started to realize that they were doing something different.
Yeah.
And in some of their later stuff, they even started experimenting with even more wild tunings. So those two songs that I posted,
Right.
one was Limo Wreck and the other one is Mailman. Both of those songs were written by Matt Cameron, their drummer, and he just came up with this tuning where he tunes the E string down to C and tunes the A string down to G, and then comes up with a song. And those two songs have a certain harmonic quality to them, where he's using harmonics,
Right.
no pun intended, and also just the way that the chords sound because of the way he's tuned.
Tuned it right.
So it was just something that I latched onto because of how it grabbed me and how it sort of transported me to a different place than music ever did before.
Yeah, no, there is something about drop D tuning that does tend to get you. There is just something about it, and it's funny. Like I've even seen memes about it, where there'll be like guitarists discovering drop D, and then like they're welling up with tears or whatever.
Yep.
But there's a reason that whole genre and that era, it was a very evocative use of tuning, and it really did have a lot to do with the mood and the vibe of the whole thing, and so I could see that. I think it's cool that you're also iterating with that, and coming up with stuff. I mean, when you and Eric were sitting there and you just started playing, was that an alternate tuning that you were okay, so you were just playing something? Okay.
Yep, that's an E standard.
Okay, so look at you. So it's funny, the what was that, do it again is like a big theme with musicians, especially on this show. So I mean, so now is there a song there? Did you and Eric finish it, or you haven't had time, or?
We didn't finish it. We haven't had time.
Okay.
So it's the rhythm track, the riff that I just started playing that he wanted to record. He then plugged in some sort of AI drums. That comes with his program. Right. We found that was the right BPM and it had the style that we were looking for, and added to the feel of the riff.
Right.
Then he played both of those together, and then I just started kind of noodling over top of it with single notes.
Right. And then you did the bass.
And then I came back another day and came up with a bass line.
I mean, you're mostly done. Like,
I need to write a bridge.
Yeah.
I definitely need to write a bridge, and I think I want him to write the lyrics, because he has a great mind for that, and he's one of the sweetest guys I know. So I think I want him to write the lyrics and maybe even sing it. But we haven't really had to get, after I laid the bass line down, we haven't really had a chance to get together again. So it's kind of halted.
Yeah. We're gonna have to figure out a way for you to record things at home so you can just send him tracks. You might have to upgrade your tech knowledge from Dropbox, but I'm sure that's all doable, and I'm sure that the Band Together community will be more than happy to not only help you with that, but to help me encourage you to finish that song, because you are inches away from having a completed original. You're not that far, and I think once you've seen that you can do it, maybe that'll open that up for you. Again, I'm not trying to give you shit. I just,
I think you're right.
when you say that you have hundreds of ideas, and then they're just lying there like orphaned children. It makes me feel bad for the songs that you're not writing, because somewhere in you there's something that wants to do that, and you instead of doing a reel with a cover of someone else's stuff, I'm just saying you could
you're
work on your own. All right. I'm going to leave that there because I've mommed you enough. So, okay. So, I mean, one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about before we get into a little bit of other stuff, tangentially music related, but you also do art.
I do. So
now, is that something that you've done also since you were little, or, what's I mean, I know that you have, it's cool actually for those who are going, Chris does art. Yes, Chris does art. And you will like some of his teenage work. There are a couple of very highly beloved album covers that you have. So was there a Maiden cover somewhere? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So talk to me about the art a little bit, because it's good, and and I mean, and obviously you do different things, because I know that you had a landscape that you painted that Bobby got from, I think it was from your dad.
My mom.
From your mom. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So, so you do different things, but, talk about the art thing a little bit. Was that before music, same time? Where did that come from?
Definitely before music. So there's, I don't know if I still have it, but there's some painting that I did either in preschool or first grade that got entered into some kind of contest.
Oh,
and
wow.
I won some kind of award, and my parents were like super proud of me for it.
Aww.
And I mean, it's like, who knew? I think it was like, like watercolor that you could actually make out that it was supposed to be something.
Okay. Hey,
like,
for 3, that's actually, that's pretty damn good. So, okay. So you've always been interested in art. And I mean, so painting, drawing, like different media, I gather too, right?
Yeah, mostly drawing, pencil on paper. Back in grade school, middle school, and high school, you would always cover your textbooks with brown paper
bags and draw on them. That's right.
I would draw all over those brown paper bags, skulls, the Van Halen logo, Eddie the Head from Iron Maiden, battle axes, because I was real big into Masters of the Universe, and still kind of am a Masters of the Universe geek.
Okay.
But back then I was real big into that kind of Conan the Barbarian type stuff. So that's where that kind of developed, just doodling, because I hated school and I didn't want to pay attention. So I would draw on my brown paper bag textbooks.
That'll do it. That'll absolutely do it. So I mean, how much art do you still do?
Almost none.
Okay. Yeah, nothing that I saw on there looked to be particularly recent. So
right.
Another creative thing, Lane Fallow, Christopher. My goodness. But no, what I loved about it too was that it was you bringing your music and your art together with those album covers, and you I think posted somewhere something like, it's been too long since I've drawn anything. But it was more poetically said, and then it was sort of like, for me, the moment where everything kind of came together on your Facebook. You said, the idea that you had that it had been too long since you had made any art led to like a couplet or something that seemed like the lyrics for a song.
Yep. And
you were like, oh, and maybe I'll write this. And I'm going, okay, dude, you're gonna maybe make some art and maybe make a song about it. And damn it, why aren't you doing any of these things? So I don't know, maybe just, finish the song with Eric and then draw the single cover art. And then there you go. And then you just do it.
I can finish the single cover art, because the picture that was with that caption, I actually drew it that day.
Okay. And
that came from an idea for a tattoo for my wife, sort of a skull head with butterfly wings. I don't know that we don't have any tattoos. I don't know that we're going to get tattoos at 50 years old at this point, but
you have an idea for one, and that's, it's fine. You could, you could always decide to get the tattoo. You could do that. Just, don't put it anywhere that you might regret regret it later, I guess. So, okay, so good. So I'm glad that you may get back to the art a little bit more. So you definitely are a creative guy. And I think that now it just comes down to once your life settles a little bit, or really once your kids' lives settle a little bit, which I think that's one of the things about being a parent, right? It's like right around the time that yours start to settle down, their lives start to blow up into, whatever they're going to do, career or kids or marriage or this or that, whatever. And then it sort of, it comes back. But I am hoping that you'll be able to carve out some time. And I do think that, given that you and Richie are so close and you play so well together and you like each other so much, and maybe, Eric can join in, and Drew as well. You just have, you do an Allman Brothers thing. You have 3 guitars, who cares? Or you could play the bass. That's fine. I will allow it, but I think, does Richie write music?
He has.
I know he writes stuff on piano, but like, does he?
I don't. He's never sent me anything other than his piano work, his originals, and it's like the same type of thing that I do. Just a clip, just an idea, a chord progression with one change, something like that.
You guys are all right there. If you all just did your one part and then sent it around to each other, you could write a lot of stuff really quickly. I feel like I'm being a huge pain in the ass. I'm sorry. And it's not, I don't mean to imply that what you're doing with your covers isn't enough. It is. But I just, how I am a little bit, I think by this point, that I see light in people and I want to pull it out. I want more of that, because I think it's very easy to put your creativity on the back burner for all of the things in life that are going on. And it's not to say that we shouldn't prioritize, real life over the music, but music is part of your real life. And so, maybe write a song for your grandbaby.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Then I'm just trying to find little ways that you can meld your worlds so that you can do, but can you imagine that? When she's having her first baby and you're all at the Burlington County Fair, and you're up there playing the song that you wrote for her when she was born. Chris, you got to do it, Chris. I've laid the scene. Do you see how cinematic this is? Are you with this vision with me? Do you get it? You got.
I can see it.
You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. And it all has to happen though at the Burlington County Fair. Otherwise it's not legal. It's like all of your major life milestones have to happen there. So, okay. So look, we've talked about a lot. I love having a conversation just about music. It's the show can go a lot of different places and people have a lot of different stories. I love all of that, but I also just love having a conversation about the love of music and what music looks like in life and the realities of being a musician and having to work and having a family or, other responsibilities and how you fit all that together. But you're going to keep going with the covers. Now we know you're going to start writing originals. 1 a week, I think, is fair. All right, let's start with finishing the one with Eric and writing the song for your grandbaby, and then you'll come back to me and I'll give you another assignment when that's done. But so all of that together. One more question I want to ask you before we wrap up, because we talked about it a little bit, but you've mentioned it a few times, and I want to let you get into it more. Your major musical influences. I know Soundgarden is a really big one, but who else have you listened to? Do you listen to? I mean, I know you said a lot of the thrash metal, black metal, death metal stuff when you were younger, but like, what is your, Spotify look like aside from all the indie stuff? Like, what do you really, anything new, anything old? Like, what kind of stuff are you listening to, and have you usually listened to?
So older stuff, I like the first wave of alternative, like The Cure, the Depeche Mode, Smith, Echo and the Bunnymen, stuff like that.
Okay.
And Elvis Costello, anything Elvis Costello did always kind of gripped me. I don't know why. He used to have a show. I forget what the show was called, but it was him and his wife, who is also an accomplished musician. And they would have guests on, but part of the show was him him and his wife covering the guest's song.
Is he
before
married
the
to
guest.
Diana Krall?
Yes, Diana
Yeah,
Krall.
that show is ringing a bell for me now. I feel like I've seen clips of it. Right, they cover other musicians, right?
Right,
On
and
that
then
they're going to
bring
interview.
someone.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I used to watch that all the time, and he performs with such passion and such energy, and I loved it. And he's just totally into what he's doing, and he writes catchy hooks, and it's just great. So Elvis Costello is another one.
I'm gonna have to give him another. I will admit, I have tried to like Elvis Costello over the years. There's something about the timbre of his voice. Sorry, Elvis. That just for some reason does not sit right with me. But I do appreciate, like you said, people who have that like Springsteen. I'm not a huge Springsteen fan either. Sorry, Bruce. I know you'll cry all the way to the bank, but but he gives such a great performance, and he really puts on such a good show that you kind of have to appreciate that just in and of itself. But
Right.
I'll roll back by Elvis Costello a little bit, and maybe is there a cover from that show that maybe I could try that you would recommend? Anything that leaps to mind? If not, I'll just go back and look.
I want to say there was a Lou Reed song that he did.
Okay.
Femme Fatale.
Okay.
Maybe is that an actual Lou Reed song? I don't know. That's something that sticks out.
I think I only know what he's a Walk on the Wild Side or whatever.
It definitely
that's. I think that's the only Lou Reed song I think I know about. But okay, all right. So Elvis Costello, all your thrash metal, black metal, death metal. What else?
Yeah.
And all the alt stuff you said. The Cure, Smiths, Echo. Yeah. Okay.
Classic rock was probably pretty big foundationally. Like The Who, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff. Leonard Skinner and Steely Dan. I used to love Steely Dan.
It's interesting to me though, because a real go-to for most cover musicians around our general ages is classic rock, and I haven't seen any of that, with the possible exception of the Hendrix cover that you did of Amazing Grace on your social media. Like, I'm not seeing you sit down and play in Dead Flowers. I'm not seeing you, you refuse to learn Stairway because you're just too cool, which we already went over. But like, so it's interesting. So you do like that. I mean, I think, most people do, but you like that stuff, but you don't tend to play it, at least not stuff that you post. And I find that interesting, and I know you said you had a country phase too, but you're not playing too much of that either. I mean, the Psychedelic Furs was an interesting choice to me. And obviously I know that you love Soundgarden. You had a Hum song on there, Neil Young, Crazy Horse. Like, so you do, your cover choices are very interesting to me. And I mean, good, interesting, not euphemistically bad, interesting, like, because it's not the stuff that most people are covering. So that's kind of why I wanted to get at this with you too, because I haven't heard any of what you're describing in any of the stuff that you've posted on social media. So I'm trying to connect the dots there. Yeah. Right. So, okay. So keep going. What else were you going to get to after all that, the classic rock bit?
Yeah. Lately, like I said, the roots music, Tyler Childers is one of the more popular ones, but I definitely recommend looking up Benjamin Todd.
Okay.
And Coulter Wall. These are like young guys that sound like
old souls,
that Johnny Cash sound like Johnny Cash did.
Oh, wow! Okay.
That Pale Horse,
album
that he did. So it's like I'm so kind of all over the place. Like Beastie Boys. My wife is a huge Beastie Boys nut. I'm not going to call her a fan because she's a nut.
Okay.
I'm into the Beastie Boys. It's just real all over the place. But as far as how I select my covers to perform at gigs, I just kind of do songs that I like, and I kind of do things that aren't ridiculously hard because again, my skill level is at a certain point right now. And I do like choosing songs that aren't something that you always hear when you go hear a bar band.
Yeah, same.
Because I want to be different. I want to stand out.
Yeah.
But the flip side to that is you're going to engage and capture more people's attention by playing those songs that people get up and dance to, that can sing along to. Nobody's singing along to
Cinnamon Girl or whatever.
Right. Except for maybe an old guy in the back.
But you know what though? And I mean, again, as a cover band person myself, and that is the whole rub, right? Is that, you know, there are, you know, hundreds of thousands of songs out there. And you go to the average bar on the average Friday night and you see the average band and they're going to be playing one of the same 200 songs that almost everybody else in every other bar is playing. And I've been in those bands. I've been in the bands that are playing Dead Flowers and, you know, Allman Brothers. And I'm not crapping on any of that music, but there is a point at which it's enough. Like I remember talking to somebody years ago and Brown Eyed Girl came on and they turned to me and they said, I have heard this song enough. I never need to hear this song again in my life. And it was said with such like gravitas that it clearly had really meant something to this person, that like they were done with that particular Van Morrison. They never need to hear it again. And I know that, you know, even playing it, you know, at a certain point, it's like, okay, you know, so I get that. But at the same time, I've also been in the band that pulls out a B-side by John Mayer that took us, you know, 6 months to really get it down because it was super intricate and complex and had all these, you know, little riffs and, you know, everything else going on, and played it. And it was like we set a bomb off on the dance floor. It cleared the floor. Everybody went to the bar, to the bathroom to get a smoke, to, you know, go listen to a different band play Wagon Wheel or whatever. So I hear you. It's hard because you want to be different. But there is a reason why most cover bands end up playing the same sets, because that's what people want to hear. So I think things like fairs and right. But I do think like fairs and festivals, you have more leeway there, you know, and I just, you know, even just in my experience playing like any gig that's outdoors, it's a different vibe from a bar gig, you know, like I mean, you know, they're going to be families with kids. Generally, those people are not bringing their children to the bar. You know, like you can play, you can get away with different stuff. And I mean, look, the crowd seemed to be liking what you were doing. So you seem to have hit that sweet spot there. But yeah, it's tricky because, and I think that's kind of why, like something we try to do is like, if we're doing a set, you know, a short set of like 20 songs or whatever, half of them are going to be the ones where people go, oh, okay, I like this. And then the other half are going to be like, oh yeah, I like this. So there is a balance there, but it's so, especially in this day and age where people have zero attention span, you know, and you have like 10 seconds to grab people. It's a gamble to do it, but I applaud that you're sticking to your guns and you're venturing out, because literally nothing that I saw on your page is something that I have seen anyone. Maybe Cars, maybe Gary Newman, maybe one other musician, but the rest of the stuff was different, and I like that. I like that about you, and I'm glad that you did that. So, okay, so you listen to everything basically.
Almost everything.
Okay.
There's certain things that I will change the station right away.
Gotcha.
And I'm probably going to start a firestorm like Billy Joel. I automatically change the channel. Sorry.
I'm actually not. I liked Billy Joel in the 70s. Well, I mean his stuff from the 70s and maybe the early 80s. And as soon as he did that Keeping the Faith album, he kind of lost me. So I'm there with you. I love how, you know, I sit here and I'm like, oh, I don't like Elvis Costello or Bruce Springsteen or Billy Joel. And they could like literally buy me and sell me thousands of times over. But that's okay. You know, again, as I always say, my grandma used to say, there's a lid for every pot. There are plenty of people who love them. So you will listen to almost anything, but probably not Billy Joel. And now I know that you and Bobby are Beastie Boy fans.
Yes. And
well, she's a nut.
Yeah,
And the
she
Rolling
did.
Stones. Okay.
Rolling
Okay.
Stone. And she is actually arguably a bigger Soundgarden fan than I am.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's saying a lot based on what I know of you. That's okay.
I think part of that is because she thought Chris Cornell was just so hot.
She's not alone in that assessment. I think a lot of people would agree with her there. Yeah, that's there are some losses that will just always sting a little bit more, and like Bowie and Prince, and Chris Cornell is another one of those. So okay, all right. So now we know you and Bobby need to collaborate on a Soundgarden cover that she can sing and you can play. No problem. Singing Chris Cornell, super easy. I'm sure she'll love me for suggesting. That's like the hardest vocal to try and get, but okay. So
I'll come up with some sort of alternate tuning so that she can actually.
There you go. That's it. See, and then that's the song that you write about your grandbaby. You do it a Soundgarden-esque lullaby in an alternate tuning.
Oh, I love it.
With Bobby singing it and you writing it, and you and Eric record it, and then you play it for the baby at the Burlington County Fair. Done.
Oh, I love it.
I've charted your life. You're fine. You're welcome. The bill will be in the mail. So, okay. If I have not harangued you enough, as you know, I think we end every show with a little segment that we call In the Vox Seat.
Yes.
And I know. And it's harder as the show goes on because at the beginning, the first, maybe 8 interviews we did, nobody knew what the questions were going to be, but now everybody knows them. But I feel like people have been cool about not pre-thinking their answers. So at some point, maybe I'll just change all the questions and fuck with everybody. But you probably know, but if you, and again, as a cover artist, this is going to be a little bit of a different answer. But if you had to sum up the music that you cover in 5 words or less, what would you say?
Personal, authentic, transparent, different, and hopefully transformative.
Look at you. What great answers. No, I really like that because it puts everything we've been talking around squarely in its place, right? That these are songs that are personal, they reflect you. That they are, transparent is an interesting choice. So talk to me a little bit about why you picked that word.
I try to be, and it's probably to my detriment, I try to be open and honest with everybody that I interact with on social media, in my life, because I think that makes the world a better place if we are open and honest with each other.
I agree.
So to have transparency in my musical persona and the stuff that I create is part of where I'm coming from.
Well, it speaks to the authenticity piece there too. And I know what you mean, but I don't think being authentic and transparent and personal, which are all kind of shades of vulnerability to me, can ever be a thing that's to one's detriment. I think it can make life less smooth sometimes, but I think those bumps tend to collect people along the way, and I mean, you've been a huge champion of other musicians in the community. You've been very vocal about supporting those, in the community who are in recovery and who are dealing with mental health issues. And, you're always right there for all of that. And I think that even doing that, especially as a guy in society, that is a very personal and authentic and transparent way to live. But I agree with you completely. Like we've done the other thing for way too long, and it's, the world suffers for it, that as I've called it before, that empathy deficit and the lack of kindness, and it's one of the reasons, as I said, that I was drawn to you, not only the fact that you were comfortable being warts and all on social media, which so many people don't do, and and all of that, but that you seem to always approach things from a place of being kind and constructive. I've never seen you online say anything negative to anybody, even when things can get a little wonky and somebody's sort of stepped out of line. You're not knocking heads together or whatever. You're sort of trying to make peace and all of that. So I hope you don't, I hope it isn't to a detriment, because I think, anytime we put light into the world, then the world is brighter, and whatever anybody else does in return doesn't really matter. So I love the list that you gave. And I do, we talked about the music being different too, but I love that, because it is you.
Right.
What you're doing, what you're saying you're trying, quote unquote, to do on social media, you are doing, and I think that's part of why you've become such a beloved member of our community. So, and I know it's a big part of why I wanted to talk to you today. So, okay. Your favorite thing about being a musician?
The way that it helps me relieve stress, the way that it helps transport me to a better place when things might get a little heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, which goes along with the stress relief piece. Yeah, those two things, man. And I guess when I play with friends of mine like Richie and Drew and Eric, and when things are clicking, there's definitely something that is happening that is just unlike anything else in the world. So
Yep. Yeah. It's funny. You are one of, I think, 3 bands who've alluded to that before, just that magical thing that happens when everybody's in that place, in that zone, and everything just comes together, and it does transport you, and it's kind of like being out of yourself. So, and I mean, what could be more stress relieving than that, right? Like, you're not even in your own head for a while. And so I think that's a big one for a lot of musicians. I know it's true for me too, that sometimes you're having a really shitty day, and then you go into your music and you come out, and at least you've had an hour or 2 where you're just not bombarded by all of that. So I absolutely agree. But okay. So then, and I think I might know what you're going to say here. Your least favorite thing about being a musician?
Well, I believe in the anger overdose episode, there's my anger overdose plug.
You have to say it in every episode, right? We got to make that another game, right?
Ambrose mentioned things not coming out the way you hear them
in your head. Yep.
So, to that effect, to speaking to that, I would like to share with you something a conversation that Eric and I had. Eric and I were talking about how things might look musically in the afterlife. So Eric and I are Christians. We go to church. Mm-hmm. So he's talking about this exact idea, how it's hard to get what you're hearing in your head out and have it sound satisfactory, or have it sound like you think it's supposed to sound.
Right.
And he hopes that when we do get to where we get to, that you'll be able to just go up to somebody and wave your hand, and there it is. What you're hearing in your head can be just displayed for your friends.
Uploaded directly to the other person. Okay. Yes. I love that idea. I think whatever one's belief system is as a musician or a creator of any type, I think that will resonate, that does feel like a sort of nirvana, to be like, finally, the thing in my head is out in the world exactly as I heard it. And that would be amazing. I mean, it's funny. I wonder, because when Ambrose said that, everybody kind of went, oh, yeah.
Yep.
Because we all know that feeling.
Yep.
And I mean, for me, it's even like, having it sound on playback the way it sounds when you're playing it live, because there's so many times that I'm like, wow, this sounds really, really great. And then I go back and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? This doesn't sound anything like I thought it did when I was in the middle of singing it. But I mean, I think that's, that's just that's like the holy grail, right? You just getting that vision out. I love that. What a cool idea. It's like that, and,
Right?
and,
How
and, and
often does
all
that
your
happen?
lost pets are there too, right? So yeah. Okay. I thought maybe you were going to say work-life balance only because, we've mentioned it so much, but I like that answer even better because it's less procedural.
Right.
It's more about, even when you do have time to be creative, getting it to where you want it to be. So, okay, this one, I think I know what band it might be, but I thought I knew what the last answer was going to be, and I was wrong too. So, if everybody's favorite question, right? If you had to pick just one album to listen to for the rest of your life, which album and why?
I've thought about this question because
Oh,
you've
you
asked,
suck.
you always asked, and I still don't have an answer. Just so
Okay,
you
good.
know. I thought about this question and I can't get past. Okay, so it's forever, right?
Yeah,
Like,
this is it.
so I can.
It's that's it. You never get to hear any other album or song ever again. It is an
I
awful, horrible, detestable question,
it
and I'm
is
still going to ask it every time.
okay. That's great. That's what makes these
I'm
interviews
so
so
glad
awesome.
nobody asks me. Thank you, but I'm so glad nobody asks me that question because I would never ever be able to answer. I keep saying the 100th episode we're gonna have Vox and Stix on, and we're all gonna have to answer the question, and I'm gonna be mad at
Oh yeah,
myself.
I'm in. Count
Okay,
me
so
in.
okay,
So I can think of a bunch of albums that I would say, yeah, I could listen to that forever. But then
right.
when I start to think about forever, infinity, you know what I mean? How long is it going to take for me to get tired of this album?
Yep.
And will I want to smash my head into a rock? But I don't really have an answer. All right, I'll answer. I'll say Soundgarden. And
Greatest hits.
I'm gonna then, I'm so predictable, right? I'm gonna say Soundgarden, Down on the Upside.
Okay.
Yep, I'm
Okay.
gonna go Down on the Upside.
Okay. You are, I think, the second person to give that answer. I think
Really?
so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was, but okay. I think that's fair. You do, as everyone does, remember it's a hypothetical, so it's not actually going to happen.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not coming to your house to steal the rest of your music. You're fine. But you did. I knew it was going to be Soundgarden. I just wasn't sure which one. But okay. So, and why that album specifically? Since you love them
That
so much in general.
I love there's Soundgarden songs, specific songs that are on other albums that I like that might be considered one of my favorite Soundgarden songs. Especially Super Unknown, like what an iconic album that is, right?
Right.
So for me, Down on the Upside has like a longevity to it. There's like a timelessness in a lot of those songs, and there's some stuff on there that is a little bit outside of the Soundgarden box.
Okay.
That was a little bit more like out of their comfort zone, or just like exploration.
Were these the ones you were talking about that were more like playing around with even different alternate tunings, or?
Possibly.
Okay.
You know what? To be honest, I can't remember if the two songs
But
I mentioned were on that album or not.
It's with your interest in the evolution of sound and the evolution of music. So I could see an album that gives you some of what they usually do that you love so much, but also gives you something different of theirs. I could see that capturing you because it kind of sums you up very neatly. You are that way. You give us covers and things that are comfortable and known to us, but you also like to switch them up and make them your own, and you're always experimenting. So I think that's a very nice mirror that you've chosen for yourself there. But this is it, Chris.
Oh boy.
You know what's coming. And Dom from Jamsteak and Freaky Things, for very different reasons, are staring at the screen right now, waiting to hear the answer. They both have high stakes on this. As you know, your toilet paper roll. Does the toilet paper come from over the top or do you pull it out from under the bottom, and why?
Over the top, because that's the way it goes.
Dom.
And I don't know
Sorry,
who
Dom.
I'm disappointing or getting
Dom.
right now, whether
It's
it's
Dom.
Joe or Dom.
It's Dom.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's Dom.
Sorry, Dom.
No, Joe is very happy with you right now because Joe will literally have just said, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And Joe has been disappointed several times in the last couple episodes. So, but Dom right now is weeping into his upside down toilet paper. Okay, so that's how it goes. So we have a bold statement here. Now, do you mean in your house because that's the way Bobby puts it on the roll and that's therefore the way that it goes, or has that always been your life choice as well? You are an over the top guy?
Yes, I've always been an over the top guy, but yes, that's how Bobby wants it. Okay. So both.
Okay.
Yes,
but you didn't have to adapt.
Nope.
You okay. All right.
Not with that anyway.
There was probably something in Lo These Many Decades, but okay, so there's another one. There is a clear consensus here, but if we do enough interviews, maybe at some point it will even out, but I doubt it, Dom. I'm sorry. So, Chris,
all the way.
Oh, Chris. I'm so glad you came on this show, and I hope you don't mind my saying this, but when we first connected about it and you were like, oh, I don't know, should I really come and do it? And there are all these indie musicians who are so amazing and whatever. And I was like, you should absolutely do it because you are a huge part of this community and you're someone that I hold very dear. And I think that I've been joking and I've been pushy and I'm sorry, but I really would love for you to dig in on making your own music a little bit more, because the little bits, as I said, that I've heard, you have stuff to say musically. And whether you write your own lyrics or you don't, or it's all instrumentals, who cares? You could do, what JD from Death Pigeon did, and you could just, do an instrumental version of an album even that had lyrics at one point. He just put that out for Rewiring of the Humanity, and like, whatever. Yeah. If as long as it isn't you deciding that you can't, right. I will be okay with it, because I do understand how busy you are, and I do know that your life is branching out into all these different directions with generations and all of that. But just think about it, okay? Because when I heard hundreds and hundreds of things are on my phone, I'm like, okay, I got to yell at him a little bit in a very loving way, encouraging, loving yelling that I'm doing here. But so even if you don't, though, and I think you will, and I'm going to talk to Bobby too, because if anyone could get you, I don't think it's going to be me. I think it's going to be Bobby, but or maybe the grandbaby, when she's old enough to say, Dad, please write me a song, Grandpapa. But anyway, whatever it is that you do, as long as you keep making music, I will ultimately be happy. But I'm so glad that you came on this show, and thank you so much for spending the evening chatting with me and sharing your stories. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I had such a good time here, Christina.
So glad.
So good talking to you, and I'm really glad that I did decide to do it. And like you said, I just feel there are so many amazing musicians in this community that we're connected with, and I feel like they're putting out albums, they're putting out singles, they're cranking stuff out, they're working together on things for charities. It's just an amazing community, and I want to start shouting out, but I'm gonna like Rob said in the Anger Overdose interview, there's my second Anger Overdose.
I know. Look at that. You've shouted him out twice now.
Rob said there are too many people to thank, and I don't want to miss somebody. But everybody, including you guys, has been so supportive and so encouraging, and just so much fun to interact with. That it's great to be here, and I'm honored that you wanted to talk to me and showcase me and what I do and who I am. And I can't wait to see what the live chat looks like.
It's probably been absolute clown shoes, as we like to say around here. And listen, bandits, I'm calling you out. Some of you need to help me here. and adopt Chris and collab with him and get him writing. Okay. I've put out the clarion call. And Christopher, you know now that when I say something to this community, they usually will help me and do it. So you're in deep shit now, my friend.
I know.
The best kind, though. Quality, grade A, deep shit. It's the good kind, if there is such a thing. So listen, thank you again. Thank you everybody for watching. This is another Vox and Guest in the books. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.